club, Bill is considered by all of us to be the right type of member. And of course, by that I mean upright, downright, and forthright. Consequently, it gives me immeasurable pleasure to call on President Bryan to present Bill with not an air-cooled chair, but a small memento in recognition of his contribution to the club during the past 50 years.
He is always forward-thinking, he is always encouraging. I have very much appreciated your wise counsel, and it gives me very great pleasure to present you with this very small token, but it was marked that wonderful achievement of 50 years as a member of Belfast Rotary Club and all the service that you have done.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies, fellow members of the Belfast Club, I'm not sure about C.T. Hogg, whether he's got the identity of the people, the person, confused with someone else, because it doesn't sound a little bit like me. But obviously, C.T. has done his research as one would expect him to, and I thank you, C.T., for the kind words. Now, I was introduced to this club in 1960, which obviously, when you subtract that from present time, it is 50 years. And it is frightening to know that 50 years can pass so quickly. It is really very frightening. But during that 50 years, I've had many memories of this club. And when I was introduced to the club in 1960, the venue was the Grand Central Hotel in Belfast. And when I say the Grand Central, I mean it was a grand hotel. It was an old Victorian hotel, very atmospheric and very, very glamorous and very beautiful. I remember very well the Rotary lunch was so impressive because at that time the Belfast Club membership numbered about 170 members, taking in one or two, one way or the other. So it was quite an impressive sight to sit down in the Grand Central Hotel in a very sumptuous atmosphere. And the atmosphere was very formal. I have memories of the top table and the legs coming down. And I have also memories of beautiful white damask or linen tablecloths with all the table decoration, perfect, and everything that goes along with it. And it was more formal, Mr. President, perhaps, than it is at the present time, without any adverse reflections.
Did you?
But we did do things very formally, there's no doubt about it. And I think when I'm on my feet, we should say that we adhered to the rules of Rotary very conscientiously. We were very vital and very strict about classification of Rotary. But not only that, we were very strict about the attendance rule. If a person or a member missed 3 consecutive meetings without making a make-up, then his, and I emphasize his because at that time there was no thoughts of any hers. And so if he defaulted in any way, there was a very concise letter sent to him to make his corrections. He didn't do it as he was supposed to. So that's what I mean. The laws, it was very formal. Present time it has become more relaxed and all that. I do remember I do remember people in the club, and there were 3 men in that club that I remember extremely well. And these 3 men went to Chicago, and in Chicago they met Paul Harris, and they were so inspired by that meeting that they were responsible for bringing Rotary back to this part of the world. That is something. And the name of those men was, I was going to say C.T. Hogg, but it wasn't. It was Charles E. White, past district governor, another past president, Hugh Boyd, and the other man was past president Harris Rundle. And I think it's very comforting to know that there's been a continuity of 3 generations at least of the Boyds, the Whites and the Rundles. And we now have David Boyd and Arthur Boyd, we have Alan Rundle, and we have Alan White, and I think that continuity is great. So in my year we had all this sort of atmosphere. The projects in Rotary then have been followed right through to the projects now. But my highlight of the projects was 2 things that we did. And one was we invested money in property in the Newtonards Road, and we established the first Abbeyfield house that ever existed. As the Belfast Club was responsible for that. In my year we also invested in property in Kilcleaf, and that's where the Harmony Trust was formed. And the late Harry Cascadden was the prime mover in that. And those 2 projects are still up and going very successfully. I could talk on and on about this, but I don't want to waste your time, Mr. President. But my highlights, personal highlights, are the fact that I was honoured to be president of this club in 77-78. I was honoured to receive the Paul Harris Fellowship from this club later on. I was also honoured recently to be made an honorary member of the club. And I just want you to know that I appreciate the friendship, the fellowship, and all the good friends that I've met in my 50 years. I will continue to support the club as long as I am able. And I should say that this club at the present time, though the club when I joined it was excellent, but this club has maintained that excellence right throughout to this present time under your chairmanship, Mr. President. So I'm sorry to maybe waste your time, but thank you very much for... Thank you.